Corona Chronicles Volume 2. What I want to talk about today is if you are feeling stressed and heavy and anxious and not yourself right now, you are not alone. This is a really, really difficult time. It's interesting. I've been talking to a lot of people through the work that I do and then online, in my friends, family, and a lot of conversations even with myself around how this is a really, really hard time. There are some people out there, though, for whom this is actually a really great moment. They are I don't mean the actual spread of a virus that is a nemesis in our global world. I mean the ability to be at home with oneself and engage in social distancing and have a minute to slow down their pace and be with themselves and do things like take up Spanish or clean out their cupboards, which is something I did this past weekend. I cleaned out drawers that I had been wanting to clean out for ages and then hadn't done it, and then I just did this weekend, positive, and meditate and engage in self-care and cook and whatever. And so for some people, this moment, while really negative and stressful, is also being framed as a really positive moment because it's going to yield creativity and self-care and inner reflection and a moment to pause. So I think that's great, and I can tell you I have some of those moments. But for a lot of us, this is actually a really tough moment, and it's stressful because it's brought upon really rapid change, and our bodies, our minds, our whole collective being, while we're good at managing change, when it's rapid, unexpected, and we weren't predicting it, it can be a lot. It can be a lot to the nervous system and more. And, on my end, I would say that I've had a really hard time over the last week or so since COVID-19 has hit Canada and watching it unfold to the rest of the world as well. It's brought about consequences that I just hadn't expected. And so, for example, I have been running a business for 10 years. I am a professional speaker, as you may know. I travel around the world speaking. Well, because of COVID-19, we cannot have basically social gatherings, so all of my speaking engagements for the rest of March and into April have been canceled, and I travel all over, and so I'm not traveling either. It means that revenue has lifted, and it's really stressful, frankly. In all of 10 years of running my business, this has never happened, and I was not expecting it, and I would say spiritually for sure I was unprepared for it. And of course this has meant stress for my team. My team is stressed. They're stressed because obviously they don't want to be hurt by the virus directly or have members of their family contract the virus, but also working virtually suddenly and stress around the economy and jobs and just all of it. They're stressed. And so if you are a leader right now and you are feeling stressed because your team is feeling stressed, I understand. I can relate to that, and I'm going to do a video about that coming up. Stay tuned in another Corona Chronicle. I would say it's been really stressful for me because I worry about my parents who are in their 70s and are already unwell, my mom in particular, and so they're in that target group, and so I worry about them. I worry about other people who are vulnerable to this illness, and it makes me sad to think that there are people out there who can't self-isolate or don't have access to food and have resources that can help them, and so my heart hurts for that. My heart hurts for anyone who's lost someone. I also have found it really stressful over the last week or so, all of the noise. And when I say noise, the misinformation, the incorrect information, the panic, the fear of others. And so I personally do not worry about getting coronavirus. And if I do, I have the privilege, the luxury of knowing that I will be okay. What I have found to be particularly stressful is the fear out there, the fear mongering, and just the collective panic and all of the information and the stories and the posts and the articles. And so I am on a limited consumption diet. Let me tell you, I have pared down what I am intaking. I'm only going to take information from really good people, people I define as being really, really good, and that is it, because I cannot manage that high influx of information coming at me from a lot of different places. Last week, while the stress was building day after day after day, when we really started to see Italy shut down and it hitting Canada and the US in a more pronounced way, I felt stress in my body. I knew I was stressed. I was highly activated. I felt numb, so I was in freeze, I could tell. But coping, managing, making my way through it, it hit me right away that it impacted my sleep. I wasn't sleeping properly. I was having disrupted sleep. It impacted my diet. When I get anxious, I eat less. And so I wasn't eating as much as I normally would eat. And I love to eat, and I eat a lot, but as you'll know from my Insta stories. But it impacted that. Impacted my mood and all of that. And wouldn't you know it, this past weekend, I had the onset of a panic attack, which did not actually end up being a full panic attack. And actually, I've never had a full panic attack. I've just had the onset of one. And thankfully, it was with Santosh, my bae, and I was able to manage through that. But I'm so glad that happened, because it was a moment for me to not only discharge energy, which is ultimately what I did, but which I've learned about through my trauma therapy certification program I'm taking. But it was a moment of, wow, this is a really stressful time for you, and you are holding it and you are housing it, and it's important that you acknowledge it. And I'm big on sharing. As you know, I'm big on living authentically and not fearing my vulnerability and sharing this with you. And the reason I wanted my second Chronicles to be about You Are Not Alone is because yesterday, repeatedly, I had people in my life who are like my healers or my mentors, or people who rarely would I have seen in deeply vulnerable places, because they have high self-care strategies and they're just strong people who are vulnerable, but say to me yesterday, I'm having a really hard time, and reveal very personally and vulnerably about what they're going through. And I thought, wow, you know what? We are all going through this, and a lot of us do share, a lot of us don't share though. And when we don't share, it makes us feel like our suffering is just our suffering as opposed to collective suffering. And so I wanted to do this video today to say to you, if you are having a hard time right now, you are not alone. I'm having a hard time. I guarantee you a lot of your family members are, your friends are, your team members are, your leaders are, and more. And so let's talk about it. Let's talk about not only acknowledging that we're having a hard time, what to do about it. And so you probably also know from checking my other videos and blogs at my website, ritubhasin.com, I am big on self-care. I have a lot of tools and strategies there. But what I'm going to do is, one of my upcoming Corona Chronicles, I'm going to talk to you about the self-care strategies I'm using to help me manage the stress and the fear and the panic and the anxiousness and all of that I have surfacing, and how I'm trying to be healthy in light of that. So I'd love to hear from you. As always, I'd love to hear what you're doing to take care of yourself. And if you're having a hard time, let me know. How is it showing up for you, and what do you need right now to feel supported? So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for my third volume coming up.